When you look at the BRICS talking about a gold-backed system, the expansion of the Shanghai Metals Exchange, how important gold is. They said last year they agreed in principle to a settlement currency called the unit, which was 40% gold-backed and redeemable. They're going to do it. I think someone told Trump, we need to do it, because since November, the amount of gold coming into this country is off the charts. I mean, really off the charts. I don't know if you noticed, but just the first 3 days of this August contract, 20,126 contracts stood for delivery. 100% of all the contracts that were posted have stood for delivery. Now, I know you remember most of your career, most of my career, less than 1% of contracts stood for delivery. And now 100% of them have stood for delivery in the first 3 days. That's $7 billion worth of gold standing for delivery. And a lot of it's leaving the ecosystem. It's loading out of COMEX. Over $100 billion in gold has come in since November that we know of through the COMEX. Who the hell's buying it all? Why don't we know more about it? So if Judy is right, you would have to reshore your gold, get it all here, and then revalue it, and then peg it to the Treasury. And while the stablecoin bill takes care of the funding on the front end of the curve, the back end peg to gold, 0 interest rates, redeemable in gold, bring back your manufacturing, and look the world in the face, or look the United States in the face, and Trump says, look, we squandered this opportunity. It used to be great, but now it's harming us. We have no manufacturing. We need to get it back. Here's how we do it. It's going to be tough for a while. You're going to need to crawl through the tunnel of the way that Andy Dufresne in the Shawshank Redemption did to get to the other side. And that other side is we now are the epicenter of ingenuity and innovation and manufacturing like we once were. Because as it is now, we're in trouble if we don't. That's my theory. Think about it. But one of the things that I found very interesting, to your point about what the BRICS are doing, Andrew, and I haven't heard a lot of people say this, is that, so they came out, China did. Now, first, the key to all this is building all these multi-jurisdictional vaults. Ask Venezuela about that. When their gold was held in the Bank of England, no, we're not going to give it to you. So now you have vaults all over the place where each country will sprinkle gold amongst these vaults in theory to spread out the jurisdictional risk. But one of the things that's interesting to me is China came out about a month ago, Andrew, and said, we have connected our bridge platform, which is in essence MBridge, to the 11 Asian countries, ASEAN, the countries in Southeast Asia. They're operational, and 5 Middle Eastern countries. Now, this represents 38% of global GDP. Saying they've connected the bridge network to 38% of global GDP. It's operational. It's working. These Asian countries. And what's really, really interesting is the article that just came out of Forbes. And let me just read this to you. It says, Forbes pointed out that China is now just the 3rd largest trade partner for the United States, and a distant 3rd behind Mexico and Canada. In the month of May, China was less than 6% of U.S. trade, which was the lowest level in over 20 years. Then you have the Asian countries, ASEAN. Again, these are the countries Southeast Asia. And together, they have a population over twice as large as the United States, nearing 800 million people. These are also some of the fastest growing consumer markets in the world with a fast growing middle class. And this group of countries, wait for it, is now China's largest trading partner by far, way ahead of the European Union and the United States. We did 6% of trading with China. They're doing almost 20%. And they're their largest trading partner. These countries in Southeast Asia are now connected to the MBridge and settle imbalances in gold. And I said that they're going to issue it to the Belt Road Initiative. They're going to. You watch. But I just heard something. The BRICS Pay, the gentleman was being interviewed, the guy that designed it, and their CEO, and he said they are right now, this is B2B, this is retail. It's like a credit card where you can spend in any of the BRICS countries seamlessly, B2B or small bank to small bank, consumer to business, whatever, retail. He said, we are now, right now, in China negotiating to roll this out on the Belt Road. And he said, and in a few years, BRICS Bridge and BRICS Pay will be connected. They're going to roll it out to the Belt Road, which is 155 countries, 75% of human population. They're going to roll it out to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They're going to roll it out to the Eurasian Economic Union. Why do I say that? Because Sergei Lavrov just came out and said, this technology settles in 7 seconds. It is free from SWIFT interference. SWIFT takes 3 to 5 days. It has a 98% reduction in fees, and we're opening it up to the rest of the world. And by the way, it's not compatible with the dollar, the pound, or the euro. They're opening up to all of these countries. So everyone focuses on the BRICS. Not big enough, Andy. Not substantial enough, Andrew. Well, sorry for the language. I'm just simply saying, you now, if Lavrov says you open it up to 90% of human population and allow them to trade outside SWIFT on a retail level and on a central bank to central bank level with imbalances settled in gold at that level through a multi-jurisdictional set of vaults. You see, when the BIS pulled the plug at the 12th hour on Enbridge, embarrassing them the way they did, say we can't be part of a technology that allows any country to sidestep Western sanctions, pretending that they just realized that Russia was the R in BRICS. That's what incentivized all this. So now China is taking the lead, calling it the renminbi cross-border payment system. They're setting up all of these vaults that will connect with the BRICS vault, that will connect with the vault in Dubai, that will connect with the vault in the new vault being built in St. Petersburg and Moscow. And all of these vaults will be the backbone, and it will be the renminbi cross-border payment system until maybe Trump is gone. And then bang, you bring the unit in, which they've already agreed on in principle, but the rails are done, the infrastructure is done, the technology works, and the vaulting system, which is the key to it all, because you can take possession, to your point, of gold in multi-jurisdictional vaults. The next one is under construction in Saudi Arabia, who was the 5th partner in Enbridge at the end. So they're straddling both sides of BRICS, but you can see where their allegiance is actually focused on. And instead of antagonizing Trump with this BRICS bridge, they call it the renminbi cross-border payment bridge for now. But it's the same technology as Enbridge. When Lavrov, who's Russian, and the guy who developed BRICS Pay is Russian, they're all connected. They're just not poking President Trump, and that's probably a smart thing.
You know, friends, I keep returning to this saying, bit by bit, then all at once. It's like Hemingway's classic remark about how someone becomes insolvent. First slowly, then abruptly. And what we're experiencing right now is that identical pattern. Not with an individual, but with the worldwide financial framework. For decades, the signs have been obvious. People like me have been banging the drum, cautioning about the instability of this liability-driven paper system, highlighting the gradual, consistent accumulation of gold by central banks, the fresh trade corridors forming outside of SWIFT, the small step-by-step adjustments that appeared harmless at the moment. But then, suddenly, you wake up one day and realize the whole game has shifted underneath your feet. And if you're not observing, if you're still fixed on CNBC watching Jim Cramer insist that NVIDIA, at a $3 trillion valuation, is a purchase, you're going to be left behind. Glance at what's unfolding on the COMEX at this moment. When I first entered this field, if 1% of futures agreements ever stood for delivery, that was judged notable. Futures were for speculation, not for receiving the goods. Nobody truly desired the bars. They wanted the margin. But here we are in 2025, and in the first 3 sessions of the August contract, 20,126 agreements stood for delivery. That's $7 billion worth of bullion that participants declared, nope, don't cash settle me. Don't roll me forward. I want the metal. Load the truck. That's 100% of all the agreements submitted standing for delivery. That has never occurred before in my career, never happened before in the contemporary history of these markets. So you must ask yourself, who the heck is acquiring it all? Why don't we discover more about it? And why is nobody in the mainstream economic media even posing the question? You know why? Because if the typical citizen observed what was occurring, insiders withdrawing hundreds of billions of dollars of bullion out of the Western bourses month after month since last November, they might begin asking questions about what's truly occurring with the dollar. They might link the clues to Donald Trump's mysterious posts about he who holds the bullion makes the laws. They might recall Judy Shelton, Trump's former Fed nominee, discussing bullion-backed treasuries. They might add it up and realize that the globe is preparing for a reset, and the elites are already arranging while the public is still chasing meme shares and index portfolios. And this isn't unfolding in isolation. Look at what China is executing. Last month, Forbes published a piece emphasizing that China is now the largest commercial partner of the ASEAN bloc. Those 11 Southeast Asian nations with nearly 800 million individuals in a swiftly expanding middle class. Together, ASEAN now conducts almost 20% of its commerce with China, making China their top partner, far beyond the EU and the US. Meanwhile, US commerce with China has collapsed to under 6%, the lowest in more than 2 decades. So you tell me, who's becoming more influential and who's becoming less significant in international trade? And here's the punchline. China has now linked its bridge cross-border settlement framework, a system that clears in seconds, independent from SWIFT control at a fraction of the cost, to those ASEAN states and even to multiple Middle Eastern nations. They're now claiming that 38% of worldwide GDP is operating on this fresh channel. Ponder that. More than a third of the international economy is already tied to a dollar-free payment rail, and nobody in the Western media is discussing it. It's like the whole neighborhood has united to construct a new road, and we're sitting on the porch drinking beer, convincing ourselves we still own the only street in town. And here's what makes it even more intriguing. You remember what happened to Venezuela when they tried to reclaim their bullion from the Bank of England? The British simply responded, "Sorry, we don't recognize your regime. You can't have it." That's why all of these nations, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, the BRICS alliance, are constructing multi-jurisdictional repositories. There's a new one being developed right now in Saudi Arabia. There's one in Dubai. There's one in St. Petersburg. There are repositories being interlinked in Hong Kong and throughout Asia. These aren't just storerooms. They're the infrastructure of a new financial order. If you desire to have a settlement currency that's exchangeable in bullion, you must ensure the bullion can't be frozen in London or New York. You require repositories distributed across allied regions where states can truly obtain delivery, truly possess their collateral. That's what they're assembling discreetly, block by block.
Okay, here's my thesis in a nutshell. Little by little, the name of my show, well, little by little, all of a sudden, stable coins are everywhere. Where the hell were they 2 years ago? No one knew stable coins. Trump was saying, Jamie Dimon was saying that crypto's a scam. And now all of a sudden, bam, right in your face, little by little, then all at once, stable coins are everywhere. You're going to see corporations around the globe issuing stable coins. JP Morgan just announced a partnership with Coinbase, and they're going to allow the bank accounts to link with your crypto account, and you can trade your Chase points that you got for using your credit card into stable coins right through Coinbase, which will be linked one-to-one or real damn close to it to U.S. Treasuries. The issuance of all of these stable coins and saying it's much easier and much quicker and blah, 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 okay, that's true. But I believe that Besant, who said we're going to go very big on stable coins, up to $2 trillion a year, will be used to load the front end of the yield curve, up to 2-year duration in Treasury, low rates. But the constant use of these stable coins will do just that. Now, what happens to the back end? The back end, to me, will be backed by gold. Now, Judy Shelton said to me on my show with her, and she's been saying it again lately, that July 4th next year, 2026, is a big day for Trump, a huge day, and it's the 250th anniversary of the country. And she said, Andy, he will issue gold-backed treasuries at that point, redeemable in gold. And I said, Judy, do you think gold will be revalued? It's held in the gold revaluation account, and not in so many words. She said, yes. Now, when we're done with this, I want to get your opinion on what you think about gold revaluation, but James Rickards comes up with a number of near 24,000. He does that by dividing the money supply into the gold. And well, if that happened, I'm just saying if it did, that would give the Treasury General Account about $6 trillion free and clear, as every $4,000 increase would give the Treasury $1 trillion. Every $4,000 increase gives the Treasury $1 trillion free and clear. They would issue those certificates to the Fed, who would print the money out of thin air and give the money to the Treasury. Now, the certificates and the gold that they hold only gives credit or claim on the dollar value of the gold, not the gold itself. That belongs to the American people. So it's an accounting gimmick. But the printing of all of that money, in James' case, would devalue the dollar by over 60%. So you destroy the value of the dollar. You're purposely doing it. How do you pay $28 trillion in come-due treasuries with $15 trillion in revenue? You don't. You destroy the value of the dollar. You inflate the out of it, and you devalue the dollar. Now, he wants a weak dollar. We've seen it fall already, but why? because he wants to bring back manufacturing. So if you destroy the value of the dollar, you devalue the hell out of it, you push gold way up and back it to the Treasury, as Judy says will happen next year, July 4th. Who knows if she's right or not? I think she is. So you got the stable coins running the front end of the market, $2 trillion a year running the government spending. Back end of the market is pegged to gold at zero coupon, zero interest rate bonds, redeemable in gold at a much higher price, because the more stupid we are with fiscal and monetary policy, the higher the price of gold goes. That is your inflation hedge. So you have zero borrowing costs on the back end, a massively devalued dollar because they revalue gold, which is held in the gold revaluation account. Everyone's talking about it all of a sudden. I've been talking about it for over a year now that they're going to do this. And so you devalue the dollar, you have a zero borrowing cost on the back end. Now you can bring back your manufacturing at zero borrowing costs and a devalued dollar, which helps you sell your goods across the globe in a very competitive manner. In essence, soft defaulting on the US dollar reserve standard.
So here's where it becomes serious. If Judy Shelton is correct, and she's not some obscure gold enthusiast in a cellar, she's Trump's prior Fed candidate and an economist who's been publishing about bullion-backed treasuries for decades. Then July 4th, 2026 will be recalled as the most crucial financial occurrence in present history. That's the 250th birthday of the United States. Reflect on the theatrics. Trump has always been a performer, always considering the visuals, the heritage. Do you truly believe he's going to permit a quarter-millennium celebration to pass without some monumental act? And what could be more monumental than declaring that the United States is reattaching its debt to bullion? Imagine it. Fireworks, patriotic addresses, and a declaration that America will once again tie itself to genuine money. That's the sort of historic performance Trump thrives on. Now let's strategize what that would signify. If the Treasury distributes long-term bonds payable in bullion, you've just produced a trustless asset that the globe cannot dismiss. Because let's be truthful, who in their right mind wants to purchase 30-year U.S. liabilities right now, when you recognize inflation is going to devour it? But if you link that liability to bullion, instantly it's appealing again. You can peg the interest at zero. You can release it at face value, and purchasers know that at termination, they can exchange in tangible bullion. That's a revolution. That's how you lure capital back into the framework when trust in fiat is eroding. And don't undervalue the imagery. Every central bank on the planet possesses bullion on its accounts in what's literally termed the bullion revaluation ledger. If you reprice bullion higher, say from $2,000 to $8,000, or even to $24,000 as Jim Rickards estimates by dividing the currency supply by the official U.S. bullion holdings, every central bank's accounts abruptly appear far stronger. They're all motivated to comply because they gain from the revaluation. The losers are the depositors, the people holding cash or liabilities. Their buying power gets destroyed, but the structure endures. States obtain breathing space, and the elites who already arranged in bullion and silver acquire generational fortune. Now, here's where it connects to the BRICS. Last year, the BRICS alliance approved in concept a settlement currency named the unit, 40% bullion-backed and exchangeable. It's not mere rhetoric. They're constructing the channels right now, multi-jurisdictional depositories in Dubai, Moscow, Hong Kong, and now Saudi Arabia. Cross-border clearing platforms like China's mBridge and the renminbi cross-border payment system conclude in seconds beyond SWIFT. BRICS Pay is deploying like a retail credit token that operates smoothly across member nations. This isn't hypothetical anymore. Sergei Lavrov himself stated the system is functional, clearing in 7 seconds, with a 98% cut in expenses, and it's exempt from Western sanctions. That's not tomorrow. That's now. Think about what occurs when they extend this across the Belt and Road Initiative. 155 nations, 75% of the worldwide population. Add in the Eurasian Economic Union, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, ASEAN, and you're speaking of the vast majority of humankind transacting outside of the dollar sphere, balancing accounts in bullion with depositories they supervise instead of London or New York. And the twist? The framework is not aligned with the dollar, the pound, or the euro. They're constructing an entirely distinct roadway. And once adequate flow is moving on that roadway, the old path, our path, turns irrelevant. Now, some will claim, Andy, that's just developing economies. The US and Europe remain the dominant forces. But that's outdated logic. The hub of gravity has already transferred. China just surpassed the US as ASEAN's leading trade ally. The US fraction of international commerce with China has dropped to figures we haven't witnessed in generations. The Middle East, once the foundation of the petrodollar, is now straddling both arenas, securing deals with BRICS while still greeting Washington courteously. But their loyalty is clear. They're constructing depositories with BRICS, not with us. They're connecting settlement platforms with China, not with us. They're hedging because they perceive the writing on the wall. The dollar isn't perpetual. It's a weakened empire currency, and the rest of the globe is bracing for its downfall. Let me phrase it differently. Visualize you're managing a company and you recognize your primary supplier is unstable, drowning in liabilities and threatening default. Do you persist relying on them out of sentimentality? Or do you quietly prepare new suppliers so you're not abandoned? That's precisely what the globe is executing with the dollar. And once the substitute network achieves critical mass, the transition will occur abruptly, all at once. And here's where it links back to what's unfolding domestically. Stable coins on the front side, bullion-backed treasuries on the rear side. The elites are returning bullion into the U.S., draining COMEX, draining the LBMA, pulling in hundreds of billions in tangible metal. Then, once it's all here, they'll reset it higher. That grants the Treasury trillions in new strength. At the same time, stablecoins create synthetic appetite for short-term debt, keeping the government's expenditure engine fueled. And then Trump rises and says, we're reviving manufacturing. We're reviving employment. We're going to make America great again. Not with easy credit and Wall Street tricks, but with hard asset-backed treasuries and a dollar that contests on the global platform again. It's the flawless storyline, and the populace will cheer, even as their reserves are slashed 60% overnight. I keep recalling that sequence in Shawshank Redemption. Recall when Andy Dufresne crawls through 500 yards of waste to emerge clean on the opposite side? That's the tunnel we're about to crawl through as a nation. It's going to be vile. It's going to be harsh. But on the far side, we arise with a shot at renewal. At least, that's the scheme. But don't deceive yourself. It's not about rescuing you. It's about rescuing the framework. And the sole individuals who come out ahead are the ones grasping the proper assets on the far side of that tunnel. Bullion, silver, and the mining stocks that will gain from the reset. Not meme equities. Not long-term liabilities. Not paper sitting in a deposit account earning negative true yields. And look, the BRICS aren't waiting for us. They're already advancing. As of today, BRICS Pay is functioning at the B2B scale, but they're arranging to extend it across the Belt and Road as a retail tool. Visualize being a merchant in Nairobi, Jakarta, or Riyadh and being able to take payment instantly in a BRICS stable currency that's partially bullion-backed, with reduced charges than Visa or MasterCard, and no reliance on SWIFT or the dollar. That's transformative. And once it gathers momentum, how long before clients start to favor it over domestic currencies that are always inflating? That's how financial transitions unfold. Not by fiat mandate, but by organic embrace, because the fresh framework operates better. And once that will begins moving, it's irreversible. Here's the aspect most people undervalue. Once the dollar forfeits its reserve position, it's not only about status, it's about necessity. Right now, every nation on Earth requires dollars to trade. That produces fabricated appetite for our currency, which permits us to run deficits without penalty. It's the core of Triffin's dilemma. To provide the globe with dollars, we must run trade deficits. That empties our production and makes us reliant on imports. But once the globe transitions to a fresh, clearing framework, that necessity vanishes. Instantly, all those dollars stored abroad return home. That's when you encounter hyperinflation. That's when your grocery expense doubles every few months. That's when preserving in dollars becomes financial ruin. And the only safeguard is holding assets that cannot be manufactured. Bullion, silver, property, productive resources. Friends, I can't state this any clearer. If you preserve in dollars, you're going to become insolvent. If you depend on the framework to protect you, you're going to be let down. The only method to shield yourself is to get ahead of this reset, to possess the assets that the elites are stockpiling, to place yourself before the masses surge. Because once the crowd awakens, it will be too late. Bullion and silver will be buy only. The depositories will be sealed. The new framework will be active, and you'll be left on the exterior gazing in. So yes, bit by bit, then suddenly, that's how this unfolds. The globe is already departing from the dollar. The storage framework is already arising. The settlement channels are already operating. The elites are already stockpiling. Trump is already implying. And the rest of us are sitting here with the illusion of steadiness, not recognizing that the tempest has already commenced. My counsel, don't delay. Don't attempt to time it flawlessly. Don't let the flawless obstruct the good. Place yourself now, because when the reset arrives, it won't matter how much paper you hold, how many equities you possess, or how many treasuries you own. What will count is whether you have actual money, bullion, and silver in your control. Everything else is merely digits on a monitor. And when the monitor resets, those digits can vanish instantly. Stay updated on the latest shifts shaping the precious metals arenas with routine briefings from the Finance Daily crew. Not only that, but as a subscriber, you'll also obtain prompt silver and gold price alerts and early entry to groundbreaking information unavailable to the general audience. Join our complimentary bullion and silver bulletin today. Link in the description.
Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel. Your comments are very valuable to us. Please make a small comment.